keeps popping into my head is the Jim Carrey character in a Truman Show. Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's like that moment where he's like, wait a second.
That's exactly how I felt. It felt like nothing was real. When I had that moment of like, oh my God, I'm having another spiritual awakening, I tried to sit with it. There's not really any way to explain the heightened abilities I had in that moment if I were to compare it to people that had near death experiences that were on the other side.
Welcome to the Light the Day podcast, where we explore spiritually transformative experiences. I'm your host, Julie Clough. And again, I'm going to remind you to subscribe, like, comment. We love to read your comments, and it gives us so much encouragement to continue to send these beautiful messages of love out into the world. So today I have my friend Angie Harris back again on the podcast. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Julie.
I'm so
So excited.
excited.
I
Yeah,
know it's always so fun to have these conversations with you
yeah.
and to be able to share with those who find these. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, what prompted this was you had an experience, it's probably been about a month ago now.
Mm.
And and we talked during this experience and when you moved through it, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but when you moved through it, I said, you know what? I think a lot of people are experiencing this right now. This is a really important conversation. So I'm just like, if you're listening, listen through because we are all going through major changes right now. It's like it's showing up astrologically, it's showing up in our world, it's showing up politically, and every aspect of our life. Things are shifting and changing, and it's creating a lot of energy movement. So take us back a little bit. First of all, for those who haven't met you yet, because you have been on the podcast a couple of times sharing some different aspects of your story and what you do. But for those who haven't met you yet, share a little bit about yourself, and then we will go into what happened a month ago.
Yeah. So, my name's Angie, and I'm a spiritual mentor and channel for a spirit team who call themselves the Wisdom Keepers. And I have an interesting story that we dove into the last time we met. So I won't share too much about that, but basically, I came into this world super spiritual, seeing things, hearing things, having the ability to heal myself, and over time was seeking for answers of why I was so different from other humans, and eventually ended up in the church around age 16, which took me on a journey into religion, where I got even more confused with myself, not understanding my gifts, but also very feeling a very deep call to spirituality, to teaching, to helping humanity, which then led me to working in the mental health field for like 20 plus years. And in the middle of all this, still seeking, still searching, still wanting to know, I was never one that went in and was full. I don't think I've fully ever indoctrinated or agreed with Christianity. And I ended up, the church I ended up the longest in was a very charismatic Pentecostal, Bible believing, you're going to hell, like be good kind of a church. And I, I was just telling some friends the other day how many times the leaders of the church would take me into the back room to try to deliver me from demons, because I would say, I see things, I hear things, like there's things showing up in my room. Like I was like asking for answers, and they were like, oh, well, those are demons, and you have demon, and so they all I always felt a little like repressed or like shoved to the side in the church because I was so different. And when I had my awakening in 2016, my entire life flashed before my eyes. It was almost like a near-death experience. And that led me to where I am now with a lot of healing, a lot of deconstructing, a lot of um, getting to know myself in a new way, opening up to what I've always been able to do with my spiritual gifts, just didn't know about it because I had had this other idea about what was happening. And eventually, Spirit led me into the path of leaving kind of the corporate world or the mental health world and starting my own business to help people understand themselves from a spiritual point of view, and to do deep healing to integrate both your human self and your spiritual self. And that's what I've been doing for the last, gosh, 5 years now, last 2 years full time. And it's been a journey, but that's a little bit of me and how I got where I am.
Yeah, I love that. And we met just a few months before you decided to go full time. And I remember that transition too. And
Yes.
and that is just life, isn't it? We have all these different transitions. And your transition into Christianity was part of your life plan, and your transition out of
Mm.
Christianity and all of that. It's so cool. Okay, so what happened a month ago?
Oh gosh. So, um, I I'm still processing some of it at this point, but I have really come out of it. I feel much more grounded than I did. But something really strange happened. I remember feeling totally fine. This was like on a Sunday. I went for a walk in the sun, was feeling really good, went and worked out. It was just a really great day, I remember. And I went to bed, and then something happened overnight that I don't know what happened, but I woke up on the Monday morning after that, and my entire reality had shifted. Not in a sense that like the physical world was different, but the way I saw it was different. It was like my senses were heightened. I felt like I was, the only way I could describe this is if you're on an airplane and like your altitude is sickness or your ears are popping, you're like, it was almost like I was looking at my life from above myself.
Mhm.
And it scared me. And it's not that I haven't had these moments before, but I think what really was hard about it was I couldn't get myself to come back down. And the heightened awareness that I had was beyond my normal physical sensations. Like, but even the physical sensations were enhanced. Like I was seeing colors that I hadn't seen before. I was smelling things I didn't smell before. I went on a walk one day and I could feel and hear and sense the sounds coming from the houses when I walked
Wow.
by them.
Wow.
Like it was almost like I could hear the trees talk. Like it was almost like everything enhanced really strongly, which made me feel like I was losing my mind. Then I went into, because I do channel, I started going into fear of, what is all this? Where am I at? Is this real? Am I making this up? And I remember thinking, I know all the tools. I teach people the tools. Like I can get through this. And after about probably 4 days of this, I couldn't get myself to come back down. And I started to think, what is going on with me?
Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Yeah.
A quick question real quick. Like the way I phrase that. You too can be a podcast host. Um, but I'm just curious when you say I couldn't get myself to come back down. When you say that, what are you meaning when you say I couldn't get myself to come back down? Like come back from that heightened awareness,
Yeah, from the
or is it something different?
heightenedness, I would say I couldn't figure out how to fit into being a human in my body. For it felt like reality wasn't real. I've I've worked with people that have had like psychosis, like a spiritual awakening that went to psychosis, where they have talked to me about how everything feels fake. There's nothing real. They want to sell everything. They want to leave. There's like no reason for this experience. Like it's literally you are seeing the matrix that we're living in, and that
Mhm.
this is pretend. And I was getting to the point where I'm like, what is the point? Like, if I'm this being that doesn't belong here, then why am I here? And being able to like hear things and sense things before was, a little hard sometimes, but having it kind of like enhanced was almost like surreal. And I really did kind of feel like I'm going to go into a psychosis if I don't get back into my body and I don't start to feel human again.
Yeah,
And
and that's I think when we started communicating
yes.
was at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I and I'm not one to like reach out a lot when I'm going through things because I do a lot of inner work, and if I need support, I mean, we meet often, and have people I talk to, but um in this moment, it had been about a week that I wasn't coming out of this, and that day, it just dawned on me, oh my God, I'm having another awakening. Like I'm awakening to something new about myself and the world around me. And I was having kind of flashbacks or memories about in 2016 when I had my spiritual awakening. Like I'm sure I've had multiple of those throughout my life, but and there was a particular day in 2016 that I knew I woke up. Like it was like night and day within seconds. And I do remember having that altered reality thinking at that time as well, just a little bit different because I was still kind of like feeling human but seeing the world different. I wasn't necessarily feeling spiritual and seeing the world different. This time it was almost like no, I'm not human kind of a
Mhm.
feeling. And that time it was like, wait, I'm a human and nothing's real. So this was like I'm human and I'm not human and nothing's real at the same time. And so
You know what keeps popping into my head? What keeps popping into my head is the Jim Carrey character in, okay, for some reason I've
The
forgotten the name of
Truman
the movie.
Show?
What's that?
Is it The Truman Show?
The Truman Show.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that moment where he's like, wait a second. This is like everybody else knows what's going on, but I don't, and th
Mhm.
my world is like made up and it's not real. And that just keeps popping into my brain.
That's exactly how I felt. It felt like nothing was real. And so when I had that moment of like, oh my God, I'm having another spiritual awakening, I tried to sit with it, and then I realized I was going into like panic. I was kind of not in control of myself at that point, and I knew I needed to come back into my body somehow. And that's when I had reached out to you and said, I think I'm having another spiritual awakening. Like something's going on. And I remember telling you, I think I'm gonna go, like I'm in psychosis. Like nothing is real. I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things. There's not really any way to explain the heightened abilities I had in that moment. If I were to compare it to people that had near death experiences that were on the other side and what they talk about having heightened senses, seeing things that were the colors, the feelings, the love, like all that. Like I was feeling those things, but I also was like, how does that fit in this experience of being a human? And it was almost like, I can't do this. I can't be a human and know that this is where I come from at the same time. And thankfully, talking to you brought me back down into my body, and I started to feel more grounded. And I started to try to, I don't spend a lot of time doing things like watching TV or the news or I really have to protect my energy just because of the work I do. And I honestly just don't want to engage in some things. And
Right.
so but I purposely made myself like go watch a TV show and watch something that made me laugh and try to get myself back into my body, which did help ground me. And it's not something I had to do long term, but for a moment, I had to like let myself integrate what I was experiencing into my human experience also. And slowly, probably within 3 days or 4 days of that, this lasted for about 2 weeks total. I started to come down out of that, but I remember I was still trying to see clients during this time, which was really difficult to like when you're talking to somebody about their struggles or doing like spiritual mentorship or kind of like it's spiritual therapy, like talking to them about their experiences. And I'm looking at it from this heightened point of view. And I'm just like, none of this matters. Why are we talking about this? You know?
That's that's what just came when you were saying that. I was like, I can imagine you're in the background going, "Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter anyway. Nothing is real."
Exactly. That's how I felt. But
Hmm.
from my human perspective, I knew it mattered because this is part of the evolution of us learning ourselves. And this is also why when people do start having awakenings or go through these shifts of consciousness, it's more important to ground yourself than to move more into that like heightened sense. It's not that that's not also important, but if you're not both in your body and connected, then you're not going to relate to humanity at all. Because in that moment, I was just like, I mean, I had an entire group I met with on that Saturday after this happened. And I pushed myself through it and I think it went fine. But at the end of it, for the last 20 minutes, I just cried and I just told all of them, you guys, there's something going on with me. Be patient. Like, I don't know what it is yet. And they are so, I mean, my communities are so gracious and so loving, and I'm so lucky to have them. They were just like, yeah, just take your time, you work through this, you got this. And it was just by speaking it out and sharing my truth with people that could hold space for me that really brought me back into my body to help me to, I really just feel like it was like integrating it.
Yeah.
The thing that was the hardest, I will say, was as I started to come out of this, the thoughts and the feelings I was having about myself in the middle of this. The most heightened thing outside of all the other heightened things was I began to know myself beyond what I had known before. And what's coming to my mind right now is the teachings of Jesus, actually, about knowing thyself and to go, going inward. And for some reason, I'm being brought to him going to the desert for the, 40 days and 40 nights to wrestle with his ego, because I think that part of that was his awakening. But I feel like I kind of had like a desert moment where I was given these insights and opportunities like what are as a human, what is going to be important to you? Power and fame, having materialistic things, worrying about what you look like, what are going to be the most important things to you, why you serve humanity and you help humanity. And I started to hear my thoughts and how horrible I was to myself.
Mm,
And it was so hard to hear my own ego criticizing me. And in that moment, I realized, I don't think we realized how much energy is within us that is creating our reality outside of us. And I started to notice the synchronizations of how I felt about myself and how the world related to me. And I started to see, oh, I don't like myself. So how can I expect other people to like myself or like me? And
mhm,
so, not that other people don't, but it was like in the past, in my history, I always had these very conflicting connections and relationships. And I now am able to look back and see I was thinking the same thing that they were reflecting back to me. I just was not aware of it. And
mhm.
so letting it come up and sense and feel and cry it out and notice it. But also I had a lot of things come up around my gifts and fears, a lot of fear around my gifts. And I started to realize that when you are truly connected to something that is beyond the human experience, like a divine energy or a power, that power is so it is so powerful that it's scary to possess as a human. And I think a lot of us know in some way we're more afraid of our power than we are our failures and our weaknesses because we know those really well. But to step into your power, it's terrifying because you're stepping into something that you don't know, but is your higher self's knowing.
But it's almost like you're integrating more of your higher self and you're looking around going, well, that will make me different than other people. It just, when you're sharing this, just now as I'm listening to your story, it feels like this widened perspective of duality. Like on one hand, you're having this heightened sense of what's actually happening or what, and then on the other hand, you're having this very deep fear. So it's
Mhm.
like this heightened duality. This, when you stretched this way, when you stretched into a heightened awareness, you stretched into heightened fear. And the
Mhm.
integration is bringing it back where it's not in fear, but it's
Right.
it's creating. And another thing that comes to mind is as you're sharing this, I know a lot of people who have had near-death experiences. As you're
Mhm.
sharing this, it feels very similar to people who have a near-death experience and then have to come back into this world going, well, wait a second. Like I know what's on the other side. How
Yeah.
do how do I live here? They go through so much depression and so much integration
Mhm.
and coming back into this experience. And honestly, I feel like that's the reason people, I think that's the reason that we don't remember the other side when we come here, because it would be impossible to play our part here.
Absolutely. We
So
can't.
interesting.
As a human, if we remembered, I don't say this to people very often, but if we remembered who we were beyond the human experience, then we would know there's no reason to be here. Like other than to learn and grow and to understand that the reality that we see projected around us isn't necessarily really impacting us in a way that we think it is. Like allowing fear to control us, allowing the kind of obligations of being a human, they're just like the Truman Show. We're in a play, we're in a show, and the entire universe is watching. you know that
Yeah.
is kind of like God created us and then God watches us go have an experience on earth, and is almost like I love them so much, like, but also in the same way, we have the free will to come here and do it. We are responsible for being here because we wanted to be here, which is crazy to think that we come from pure love and peace. And then we say, hey, let's go to Earth where everything is horrible right now, especially during the times we're in right now. And it is one of there's been a lot of interesting things throughout the history of Earth. And one of the things that have come up for me in this awakening is understanding things beyond my human brain.
Hmm.
And wrapping my mind around those things has been this also makes you feel a little crazy when you start realizing everything's alive. Not that I didn't already think that on some level, but having awareness of the history of humanity, the history of the earth, um, things that have purposely been repressed or hidden from humans to keep them asleep or under control. And knowing where we are in this time right now of like before 2026 came, I was told by my spirit team, you were about to go into a year of complete exposure. Nobody's going to walk through 2026 and get into 2027. No human is going to get to the end of this year and not have had some type of an awakening or some type of self-awareness that comes up where they have to face themselves differently. And in this, we are going to start to see people for who they really are instead of who they have said they are. The identity they have put on as a face or a role or something that they have created as a way to relate to humans. Um, where it's like we're taking off the fake persona or the ideas of who we have to be, and we're stepping more into an authentic version of ourselves. And doing that is difficult because our ego it literally thinks we're going to die every time we heal, every time something is let
Because
go.
the ego does die,
It does.
like piece by piece.
Right.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
I mean, it is almost like I can see how it's a weird thing for me to have these things happening without dying, with actually, not that I know that I have, but without actually leaving my body, having an out of body death experience, a near death experience, and then coming back into the body to have these things happen. It feels weird for me because it doesn't make sense. Like, I didn't go get this anywhere. It just came into me. And for me to start having heightened awareness, I mean, I already kind of had that prior where I was channeling and I was seeing things, but a heightened awareness of why we're going through what we're going through and why humans are feeling the way they're feeling and why there's an awakening of consciousness taking place on Earth. And I think from what I have understood, there are some of us that have been on this journey for a while, this awakening journey for a while, and there's always going to be levels that we go through, but it's almost like some of us came to be the one to push the level up a little bit so that others can rise with us. Now humans look at this as like, oh, they're ahead, we're behind, all that kind of, we put linear on understanding on it, but from some aspects, it's not about that. It's about unity, consciousness rising. And the more unity conscious rises, the more I'm aware of myself, the more I can become aware of you. And I no longer see you as my enemy, I see you as myself. And the mirror is reflecting back to me that you are showing me areas that I've yet to work out in my ego, and I am reflecting things back to you. And it's not competition, it's literally awakening to self. It's what Jesus taught us. Like, you to know the kingdom of heaven is within. The more you know yourself, the more you're going to connect with your divine energy, the truth of where you come from. And eventually what we'll do is we'll shift into a new awareness where there's going to be a group of humanity that all think like this. And for some reason, there's just some of us that are, kind of opening up the thinking to help others to understand I'm not the only one that's going to go through this. So just a heads up, like, I'm not special. I mean, I
That's
do.
why I think this conversation is so important. And that's why I
Yeah.
invited you to share because I think, and like you said, 2026 is an opening year. And this
Mhm.
illusion that we have that we can keep secrets or
Mhm.
we can have a different internal world than our outer world
Mhm.
is an illusion.
Yep.
And
It
we're
is.
going to see that play out. I
Yeah.
think that's what you're saying. Would that
Absolutely.
be?
Yeah. We can't play the role. I had an experience a few weeks ago. I had a woman that was a spiritual teacher for me, not for like a super long time, but I had studied with her about energy work and things like that. And she had passed. And I had told her before when I was with her in person last, I knew she was going to pass because she had cancer. And so I told her, I don't know if this is right or wrong to do, but I told her, I know this will be the last time I will never see you again on earth, but I would love to hear from you when you shift back into your spirit and for you to come and talk to me or help me or whatever you can do from the other side. And I was one evening, I knew she had passed, but one evening I'm like making dinner in my kitchen, not even thinking about anything, and I feel her come in, and I knew it was her because I could sense the energy. And I was like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" And I said her name, and she said to me, she's like, "And you got to understand that there's no role or identity that you will ever be able to play on earth that will be what makes you important." Because, and she shared with me, when I got back to this side, all the roles, all the identity, everything that I played, like I portrayed to the world that I was, left. And the only thing that was left of me was my true authentic essence, the true spirit of myself. And so as long as you are being true to yourself, it doesn't mean we're not going to, I call it wrestling with, God or the ego. Like we're always going to have some kind of a wrestling that we're doing, not in a way to like hurt ourselves or our ego, but it's always about coming back into love and understanding that we are beyond the labels and roles that we create for ourselves here on earth. And we're seeing this happening right now. Like, I mean, not to like go too in this, but there's a lot of spiritual leaders or people in the world that have had labels or roles where people have looked up to them and thought, oh, they have it figured out or they're this way, and is crashing down because you can't maintain those in a heightened awareness world where people can see beyond those films of, you know, labels that we have put up. Like it is literally the scales falling from the eyes is what we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
beginning to see reality for what it really always has been.
And as dark and as heavy and as challenging as it is to
Mhm.
see what we're seeing, in specifically in the e-files that, as dark and as heavy and as challenging that is for our greatest good. It's for our greatest good. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your thoughts about like the guru, the religious leader, that type of, that's been what's the word I want to use? That's been an archetype that we have looked to for hundreds of years. So
Mhm.
I would love for you to share a little bit about your thoughts about that particular idea.
Well, humans in many ways, this is a really interesting topic that it's almost fun to talk about, but it's difficult to explain. Um, the spirit team I work with, the Wisdom Keepers, recently brought into my awareness that around 2000 to 2500 years ago, probably around when Jesus came, that humanity made an agreement in the spirit realm that they would begin to shift into a new way of being and then eventually shift. It's almost like humanity's gone through these different phases. And for the last 2000 years, there's been this energy built up of looking outside of self for clarity or understanding of self. And so, gurus, spiritual leaders, people in like looked up to, I mean, even some cults, like things like that, people were looking for answers that their soul knew inside of themselves. There's something else there. Like, a critically thinking human is always going to have this idea of like, this can't be it. Like, there's got to be something beyond here. Like, you can't go out into the night sky and look at the stars and other planets and think, oh, this is the only thing in the universe. Like, that challenges your humanness So, what do you do when you start to get challenged in your humanness? You look for an answer. And for somebody to step into, not that every single guru or spiritual leader was, a false prophet or had the wrong message. I think there's always some truth mixed into any message that's sent. And this is why we all have to use discernment. And I teach, don't follow one person. Don't, like, I even tell my own students, my own clients, like, I don't have all the answers. I will never have the answers. If I say something and you're like, that doesn't sound right, then tell me. Like, I don't, and I will never have just one teacher. I want to pull from multiple different people because I understand we're all human and we're all trying to figure this out. But I also understand I'm not doing this because you have something I don't have. I'm doing this because you can reflect back to me something I already have within myself. And I can begin to awaken that within me instead of needing you to teach me who I am. And this is why instead of having a guru or a spiritual kind of like pastor or church that where everybody gathers and thinks the same way.
Or
Like, not
even a
that,
political leader or
right.
a leader of any kind,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it is as soon as you start looking for something outside of yourself and giving your power away to it, then you have no power within yourself. And so, what we see taking place in the church and spiritual gurus and the people that have kind of been in the leading new age movement, even it doesn't matter the category. This has been the prominent way humans have found their answers. Were saying, I'm gonna, Julie is an angel communicator. She knows how to talk to angels. I need to go to Julie and she's gonna tell me how, everything about I need to know. And it's not that you don't have the information, you are the person that teaches through giving the information how other people are also capable of doing this.
Yeah.
And so we can't, not that you can't look to people for support and help, because this is something that my spirit team told me a while ago, because I'm a healer. I've been a healer since I came to earth. I knew it. That's why I ended up in the mental health field. I asked them, like, what's the point of being a healer on earth if everybody has their ability to heal themselves? And spirit said, well, you're here to teach them that. A healer is
That's
someone.
so interesting because I got the same message 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I received the same message. It's like we're all just, it's kind of a quaint little phrase, but we're all just leading each other home, and
Right.
and we learn so much from each other. So,
Yeah.
just even to your point, I just love what you're saying. Um, even to your point, like we 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 listen to multiple people and we glean what we need in that moment. And I really feel like our spirit guides lead us to resources. They're like, okay, she's ready for this now. He's ready for that now. So that, like, if you're listening to this, your spirit guides brought you to this conversation because there's something within this conversation, maybe not the whole thing, but there's something within this conversation that opens another piece for you. And that's what we're all doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're all doing,
Um,
I love what you're saying. Um, well, I want to make sure that you were able to finish if you had a further thought on that. And then I would love to invite the wisdom keepers to share some messages with us if you're willing to channel them
yeah.
for us.
I mean, honestly, they probably would give better answers than me anyway. So I'm I'm good with just going ahead and transition and letting them answer the rest of
Okay.
the questions.
Okay, so share a little bit about how you do that, and will they speak first, or and then I have some questions. So yeah, let us know how that works.
Yeah, so I do trans channel. And so trans channeling is basically I do shut my eyes and I kind of just, the way I could describe this is almost like my human self goes and sits in the crowd and watches me channel of, beings of light that are from other dimensions. The wisdom keepers, I'm still learning more about them every day. They, just like we were just talking about, you get little bits and pieces when you're ready. They have shared with me that there are some Octarians a part of this team, there are Pleiadians a part of this team, but there are different dimensional beings that come in, Syrians, like all these beings that come together and form what they call a council of light, that they call themselves the wisdom keepers. And they hold the wisdom of the universe. And so some of their concepts are beyond the human logic because they see things outside of physical reality. And they can, when I'm channeling, it's almost like I'm looking down at Earth and I see energy instead of human figure or physical figures. And they do attempt to use my brain in the language I have in my brain to bring through these messages. And they're teaching me how to trust these messages a little bit more. But my human brain, like, it's interesting. They have to figure out how to translate words through me, and they may not have an actual word in my language or whatever that they can fully bring it through. So they get a little wordy sometimes. Just a heads up, because they're trying to get the point across, and I don't have the ability to translate that sometimes. But that's kind of how it is. And I don't ever know. Sometimes there's different frequencies that might come through based on the question. And like the other day I channeled and the Palladians came through. They were very clear, like we're here to work with humanity, sometimes Octarians, sometimes other beings of light or angels or even Jesus would come through at points. So yeah, we'll just see what comes through.
Awesome. I'm excited. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah. Okay. We are here to assist in this transmission of light and energy to help humanity to comprehend and understand themselves in a new way, to help assist in this light transmission happening in the human form, to awaken the consciousness of all beings. We are here to assist you in these questions at this time.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. So, what can you tell us about this shift? What is the importance of making a shift? Like, why are we receiving this information?
We will come to you with the information that we understand from the perspective of Source and the creator of all things, and how things are constantly being propelled out from this frequency that you may call God. And the creator itself is a constant. It is a creation. It creates, it cannot stop creating. It is constantly pulling out, pushing, retracting, moving. There is no moment in what you call time that there is not some type of energy creating itself. And so humans are a part of the creation of all things, and they play a role in the ability to bring contrast into the energetics of source to move itself more into its own awareness and understanding, propelling itself even what you may even call larger or bigger in its ability to comprehend self. Just as humans are coming to awareness of self, Source is constantly coming to the awareness of self. You are a reflection, you are an exact reflection of Source, and therefore you are in many ways reflecting exactly what Source is wanting to create in itself. So as humans become more aware of self and they become into the ability to translate in their mind the truth and reality beyond the physical realm, they must begin to shift in their awareness, or the ability to continue to expand does not continue to create itself. So many ways you are a frequency, we may say, that is pushed furthest out into the mind of God, and then you are being pulled back into the mind of God. If we can maybe use the example of on earth using a boomerang, God has boomeranged you out of itself, and now you are returning to itself. And this is a constant. It is like a pulse. It's like a breath. It's like a constant being of light expanding and contrasting and building. So, in many ways, humanity has built into the structure of God the ability to have mm, darkness, you may say, in many ways, in a contracted form that can be used, such like a battery in your reality with both negative and positive. You have played a role in helping humanity and all beings of all forms in the universe to become more self-aware. And those of you that have come into the awareness of self are on the leading edge of this thought to help pull it back into its own knowing and reality. And eventually, humanity will come into this new form, a new frequency that they will relate to one another and to all other beings within their galaxy and universe in a new way. So simply, we hope this makes sense. It is a creation of God that is used to create more of God. Does this help?
Yes, thank you. What part, if any, does technology play in what we're moving through right now?
Technology allows humans to have more awareness of self in many different ways. It has been given to humans in many forms and many timelines upon the earth. And you are learning how to use technology in a way to help self and not to harm self. As the human ego often struggles with the identity of itself and will look towards things to help it understand itself, and at times in your human comprehension and awareness throughout many different timelines that humans have been on earth, you have struggled to use technology in the way to help you instead of harm you. And in this time period you are currently projecting yourself in, you are beginning to learn the difference between using technology for your heightened awareness or to repress yourself. And in many ways, technology has been given to you by other dimensions to teach you. And they are things that other dimensions and beings may have already awareness in using. Some of the beings of light that do come and assist humanity have come down into the earthly realm to teach humans more about themselves. And by using technology, it brings a greater and broader communication to the earth. As you can tell, humanity has recently come into the ability to communicate beyond the linear timeline they are in. You may call it waves of energy in the atmosphere that you have picked up on to communicate with other humans around the world. And by becoming more connected, you become more aware of yourself and that you are all one and unified. And so the technology is actually here to assist you if you are capable of using it for that purpose. And in this time, it is critical for you to understand that it is here to help and not to hinder. It is simply the way you use it. Does this help?
It does. So when so many people are having these spiritual experiences, these spiritual awakening, just like we talked about with Angie, what advice can you give us about integrating those experiences?
These are times where humans must allow themselves to trust. There is always an element of trust as everything is already built within. And the more that they allow themselves to go inward instead of looking for answers outward, they will begin to understand themselves more, which then can bring in more light, which then opens up their ability to love first themselves, then to reflect that love outward. And so humanities are actually coming into a new awareness of what love is and how to project love towards one another. And in this, it is building contrast against the parts of humanity that have not resided in love, which you may call darkness in your realm. And that is why you see a lot of things coming to the surface that have always been present within your human race that cannot be held in light. And as love continues to reside and humans continue to awaken, they will begin to continue to shift the awareness of themselves, which will project light more into the world. So, for individuals going through these certain moments of awakening, it is important to have community, to have people that you can speak with or to integrate your understanding with, and you will begin to see these more often throughout the earth as those who are there to support and volunteer in this ascension will begin to build more of these and to help one another to feel safe in this new energy. As you know, it can be alarming to you as a human to have a sudden awareness of self. But as you continue to have more awareness of self, fear begins to shift, and you no longer operate in the fear of yourself or the reality that you live in, and you integrate the love of your true self. All of this is moving into more light, more comprehension of yourselves as reflections of source. And it is a difficult time, we understand, for humanity to awaken in this way, but this has been happening for many, many years. And it is happening in the way it is happening in order to help humanity. As we know, if you all were to just suddenly awaken without movement of uh, time in your world to comprehend it when it does happen, you would not survive. So you must take this slowly, and you must take this um, within love of self as you begin to shift to help it integrate and pull the light into the earth that is already there, that has just been polluted, we will say, by dark energy. Does this make sense?
It does. Thank you. But when you mentioned communities, is this where we're moving, is creating these what some people have called communities of light?
Yes, over time, humans will begin to build more of a community like living, where you will work together, where there will not be need for some humans as there have been need on your planet at this time. There will be what we will say more equal understanding, where you are not controlling one another or above one another, but simply one with one another. You will begin to reflect much like other dimensions. If you were to look into, let's say, the Pleiadian energies, they are unified. They do not have hierarchy. They do not have control. They have systems put into place to help keep order, but the order is not based on fear or the need to make anyone be a different way or to mm, what do we say? Humans struggle with lack, we will say. Maybe you would call poverty or um, not having needs met. And in other dimensions, this is not the case. The needs are always met because there is always unity. There is always an agreement that we are all one being and we are of one light, and we are here to be one. And so humans will begin to experience this in many ways. Some of you already have begun to experience this. It will just become more heightened over time. And within the next 2 to 3 years, these communities will become more prevalent on your earth. And over time, the entire earth will be working more so in this way. And it will be important for those who remain on earth to be connected in these ways, as it will bring unity consciousness to all.
Love that. Thank you so much. What can you tell us about? I hear about Mother Gaia. We talk about Mother Gaia, Father God, and I hear uh, these ideas that Mother Gaia is leaving the earth. What can you tell us about that and that transition?
We are unaware that she's leaving. I'm not sure how a being can leave itself. However, what we can say is that she is enhancing in her awareness of herself, and it could appear as if it is leaving self. Just like you all, as when you heal, you leave parts of yourself behind, maybe reflections of an identity that you once held in your awareness. From our perspective and point of view, we can look back at a human and we can see many different versions of that human as they shift and awaken. And so, if you, how would we describe this? If you could see energy, you would see actual apparitions following behind a human of different parts of themselves they once were. And this is why there may be times that you turn and look at yourself, maybe in a picture or in some way from your past, and you do not relate with that part of your humanness any longer because you are no longer that human. It is a continual integration and an awakening. So the earth herself is a conscious being. She does not have ego. She does not have a thought that projects into the universe that causes contrast in a way that would be harmful or projecting fear. It is simply the human consciousness that has put that around her, and she is shedding that off, which can cause it to appear as if she is leaving herself behind. And in many ways, this is what you are calling new earth or a birthing of a new age. Not that there is not going to continue to be some remnants of an earth that holds the old dimensional thinking or the lower vibrations, as there's always a need for that, for source to continue to create itself. But those of you who have resided on the earth or gone through the lessons in which you wish to learn here are ready to ascend into a new understanding of yourself, which will create a new replica or frequency of earth that you will reside on. And the old earth will fall away where you will no longer engage or interact with it. And it's simply it is hard to describe from our point of view to humans, as you cannot comprehend it fully, but it is the same, but not the same. And that is all we can share at this point.
So will we see changes in the face of the earth over the next 5 to 10 years?
You will see changes in many different ways. You will see changes among yourselves. You will see changes in your bodies. You will see changes in your food. You will see changes in how the earth grows. You will see changes in how the sun is rising and setting. You will see changes in the atmosphere. You will see changes in the clouds. You will see many different changes over the many years that come as you will begin to ascend into a different frequency and awareness where you will have a heightened ability to see things beyond the dimension that you have been in. It is much like what Angie just described in her a second awakening that she describes, that the awareness of self becomes heightened, which gives you the awareness of the ability to see all things around you heightened. And over time, you will become part of a galactic federation where you are much like other dimensions, and Earth will become another form of light in the galaxy in which you reside at this time. And so we understand humans have this idea of split. It is not necessarily that is not true, but it is a consciousness split, as form and energy does not ever leave. It just is transformed into new things. However, there's always a replica of an energy once it is created. So if you could see a ball bouncing and you could see in your energy each time it bounces, it leaves a frequency of itself in that place. It is almost like what we see. We see the earth moving into a new frequency and leaving behind different parts of itself. Does this make sense?
Yes, thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing these things with us. I know it's challenging to share with us in our present condition in this dimension. Any last things you would like to share before we end?
Well, we enjoy speaking with you and giving you these concepts and attempting to share the truth with you in which we see. And we want you to know that the only reason that you are able to have these messages at this time is because you are ready and you are shifting into an awareness of self to hold more light frequency within you. One thing we would like to leave with humans at this time is to remember to stay in truth in yourself and to spend some time with the sun, as many light codes are coming to earth at this time to awaken you. And the more you allow yourself to move these things through your physical body, the less resistance you will have in this awakening process. So we encourage you to remember as you work through these things to take care of the human vessel that you are in, as the vessel is also shifting and changing into a new light body and frequency. We love you and we are always here to support you and assist you.
Wow, that was a lot. I'm looking forward to going back and re-listening to this myself and yeah, sitting with some of this information that came through. It was really interesting. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that.
You're welcome. I don't always know what they're saying when I'm channeling, so I'll look forward to hearing that as well. I just know that their comprehension of things are beyond my understanding sometime. So if you do listen to this and you're like, what the heck? Like you may have to listen to a couple times, because I do. So just know. And I just want to like say that my book, Parables for a New Earth, was all channeled and some of the things that they like I do channel come through and I was able to like write it a lot more logically than sometimes they can speak it. So if you do have a hard time like understanding it, get my book Parables for a New Earth. And it might give you a little bit more ability to comprehend what they're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely get that book. It's quite interesting. How can people reach out to you? Any last things you want to share before we go? That was just fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, angieharris.org is my website, and so you can get on there. I am opening myself up this year to doing channeling events. So if there is anywhere around you that you would like me to come and channel in person, I am stepping out of my comfort zone and beginning that. I also channel live on YouTube every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. And then if you want to join my communities, I have a healer circle, the most magical group of women I've ever met in my life. We get to meet in person in 3 weeks for my very first in-person retreat. And then my Ascension membership is kind of a spiritual awakening support group where we get together over Zoom and I have people all over the US. And I share these insights about what I'm getting about New Earth and what's happening on the Earth with them. It's kind of like an open conversation with me. Ask me any questions, and anybody is welcome to join that. It's just a monthly membership. I think it's like $40 a month, and you get to ask questions of the Wisdom Keepers. You get to come to the support group. And yeah, so I have a couple different ways to reach out to me. I also do one-on-one work. A little limited on how much time I have for one-on-one work, but if you are looking for some deeper healing, integration, mentorship, I do have a few more openings for that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.